Hello, I am Majid 2006. Welcome to the channel. What we are, why, how often do married couples have sex? What the research tells us. Although it's not usually a good idea to compare your sex life to what sex statistics say about others, it can be interesting to look at how often other couples have sex. For example, sometimes people believe they're having less sex than their peers, but scientific study or survey results might prove them wrong. Other stats can offer insight on married couples' sexual satisfaction, as well as relationship satisfaction and how it's related to sex. This article discusses how often married couples have sex. It also covers how sex frequency is related to relationship satisfaction and communication. But first, an important note: a normal sexual frequency is determined by what the couple agrees is mutually satisfying. Sexual frequency is not an indicator of sexual satisfaction. Average number of times per week married couples make love. According to the 2022 General Social Survey's data on about 660 married people who shared details about how often they had sex in the past year, 25% had sex once a week, 16% had sex 2 to 3 times per week, 5% had sex 4 or more times per week, 17% had sex once a month, 19% had sex 2 to 3 times per month, 10% hadn't had sex in the past year, 7% had sex about once or twice in the past year. Other studies have found similar numbers. A multi-year study of 35,000 British people published in 2022 found about half of people in serious relationships have sex less than once a week. How often married couples make love? By age. In 2019, AARP reported that in a study of over 8,000 people over 50 years old conducted by sociologists Pepper Schwartz, PhD, and James Witt, PhD, 31% of couples have sex a few times a week, 28% of couples have sex a few times a month, 8% of couples have sex once a month, and 33% of couples rarely or never have sex. Among people in their 70s, a 2020 study published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior found 33% of sexually active men and 36% of sexually active women had sex at least twice a month. For people in their 80s, 19% of sexually active men and 32% of sexually active women had sex at least twice a month. According to the International Society for Sexual Medicine, the 2010 National Survey of Sexual Health and Behavior found almost 25% of partnered women over age 70 had sex more than 4 times a week. Frequency of sex seems to decrease overall as couples age, Howard says. Though citing studies on older adult sex lives like those above, she adds, age is just a number. Lauren Fogel-Mersey, PsyD, psychologist and ASEX-certified sex therapist, adds, all aspects of our sexuality can change as we age. Arousal and orgasms might take longer, desire can lower, and sexual frequency can certainly decline, particularly as a relationship matures over years. Of course, this won't be true for everyone, but it is common. How often married couples should have sex? There is no ideal number of times every married couple should be having sex. What each couple needs or wants will vary based on their own personal preferences. The frequency that a couple should be sexual is the frequency that they negotiate based on their individual needs and levels of desire. There is no one size that fits all here, Fogel-Mersey says. I hesitate to recommend a specific number because it won't fit for a good portion of the population. When people use a statistic to determine their sexual frequency, it reinforces performative sex, which is when you go through the motions just to check the box. That said, Howard notes that a 2015 study published in Social Psychological and Personality Science journal found couples are happiest when they have sex about once a week. Their happiness with the relationship decreased when couples had sex less frequently than that, but it didn't increase if they had sex more often than that. It seems like the magic number to sustain positive sexual well-being in a relationship is once a week, Howard says. What to do if you're not happy with how often you have sex? 1. Schedule sex. For couples who might be struggling with sexual intimacy but feel connected in other areas of the relationship, I recommend scheduling sex. Yes, I said schedule sex, says Howard. It doesn't make sex less spontaneous. Scheduling sex is a way to show your partner that you want to prioritize sex just as you do other areas of importance in your life. How do you do that? Howard's advice: scheduling sex doesn't mean that your sex life will run on a schedule like every Tuesday at 8 p.m. in the missionary position for 6 minutes. No, not like that. Sometimes scheduling sex is telling your partner to be naked when you get home. The method might not work for everyone, she adds, and that's okay. Try it out and see how it feels. If it's not working, time to try something else. 2. Try intimacy dates. For partners who are both committed to being more intimate together, I recommend that they broaden their definition of sex, so that it doesn't feel too narrow or pressured, Fogel-Mersey says. One of the main exercises that I recommend is for partners to plan a weekly intimacy date. This is different from a sex date, in that it's pleasure-focused, not goal-oriented, and geared toward physical connection in its various forms. This can involve anything from kissing, lying naked together, cuddling, showering, massaging, or sexual activity. 3. Talk about it. The first thing I recommend is for partners to have a discussion about their feelings and needs, Fogel-Mersey explains. It's important that this gets explicitly verbalized so there isn't miscommunication or assumptions. Howard adds, I will always recommend couples to keep an open mouth when it comes to discussing sex. Talk to each other often. The most important and frequently asked questions in this section. How does frequency of sex change with age? Changes in sexual desire and frequency are normal as people age. For men, sex drive tends to peak around age 18, when testosterone levels are highest, and then begins to gradually decline starting at around age 30.8. For women, sexual appetite usually peaks in the 30s and 40s and begins to decline following menopause. 9 Hormone levels and other physical changes can play a role in how frequently people desire or engage in sex as they age. Is once a month a sexless marriage? Generally speaking, a sexless marriage is defined as one where the married couple has sex 10 or fewer times per year. That said, people have very different definitions of what counts as a sexless relationship and how much sex they personally want. Some couples have sex once or twice a year or don't have any sex at all, and they're perfectly happy with that. Other couples may struggle if they have sex less than once a month. How often do married couples with children have sex? Surveys tend to suggest that sex frequency declines after having children, although this varies from one couple to the next. Research has found that 89% of women report resuming sexual activity within 6 months after having a child. 7 Factors such as sexual dysfunction, lack of sleep, body image issues, stress, conflicting schedules, and the demands of parenting can all play a role in how frequently couples have sex after having children. Is having sex every day normal? According to 2018 GSS data, just 5% of married people said they had sex 4 or more times per week. So no, it's not very common for married couples to have sex every day. That isn't to say it's unhealthy or abnormal to have sex daily if that's what works for you and your marriage, as long as both partners are open to it. How does frequency of sex change with length of marriage? Research suggests that relationship duration plays a role in the decline of sex frequency over time. 10 Known as the honeymoon effect, couples typically have sex more frequently at the beginning of a relationship followed by a sharp decline after the first year. In addition to the length of the relationship, other factors such as physical health and age also affect sex frequency over time. Though interesting, what statistics say about other people's sex lives is usually not relevant to your own. What matters is how you and partner feel about your relationship and sex life, and how well you can discuss it with each other. I hope you stop comparing your relationship and live a romantic life forever. Now, if you want to be successful in romantic relationships and know more, subscribe to my channel. I made many tutorials for you. I will kiss you, my dear.